was a cold, foggy night in late October when Sarah found herself standing at the bus stop, her breath visible in the frigid air. She had just finished a late shift at the diner, and the streets were eerily quiet. The clock on her phone read 11:45 p.m., and she cursed under her breath as she realized she had missed the last bus home. The thought of walking the long, dark streets alone sent a shiver down her spine. Sarah had always been a practical person, but the stories she had heard about the old train station at the edge of town echoed in her mind. Tales of people who had vanished without a trace, whispers of ghostly figures seen wandering the platforms late at night. But with no other choice, she decided to make her way to the station, her heart pounding with each step. As she approached the station, the flickering lights cast long shadows on the cracked pavement. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the distant sound of a train whistle. She glanced at her watch. It was nearly midnight. The station loomed ahead, its once grand architecture now faded and neglected. Inside, the waiting room was dimly lit, with peeling paint and dusty benches. The scent of mildew hung in the air, and the atmosphere felt heavy, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Sarah was alone, or so she thought. In the far corner, she noticed a figure shrouded in darkness. It was a man, his face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. He sat perfectly still, staring at the ground. "Excuse me," Sarah called out, her voice trembling slightly. "Is this train still running?" The man didn't respond. Instead, he slowly lifted his head, revealing hollow eyes that seemed to absorb the light around him. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. She looked away, trying to shake off the feeling of dread creeping over her. Moments later, the sound of the train echoed through the station, growing louder until it filled the air with a haunting whistle. The lights flickered, and the platform outside illuminated with an otherworldly glow. Sarah's heart raced as she stood up, ready to board. The atmosphere felt charged, as if the very air was alive with anticipation. As she stepped outside, she saw the train, a sleek black locomotive with no markings, its surface gleaming ominously in the dim light. The doors opened with a hiss, revealing a dark interior that seemed to beckon her inside. She hesitated for a moment, glancing back at the man in the waiting room. He was now standing, watching her with an expressionless face, his eyes like deep voids that sent a shiver down her spine. "Get on," he whispered, his voice like gravel. "It's the only way." Against her better judgment, Sarah climbed aboard. The interior was dimly lit, with plush seats that looked untouched by time. The air inside was thick and stale, carrying a faint scent of something metallic. She took a seat by the window, her breath fogging the glass as the train began to move. As they sped through the night, the landscape outside blurred into darkness. Sarah felt a strange sense of unease wash over her. The train rattled and swayed, but there was an unsettling stillness inside. She glanced around, noticing that the other seats were empty, save for a few shadowy figures in the back, their faces obscured by the dim light. As the train continued its journey, Sarah's mind raced with questions. Where was this train going? Why were there no other passengers? She tried to shake off her anxiety, convincing herself that it was just a late-night ride home. But the feeling of being watched lingered, and she couldn't shake the sensation that the shadowy figures were staring at her. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, and the train lurched violently. Sarah gripped the armrest, her heart pounding. The shadowy figures shifted, and she could hear faint whispers, like a distant conversation just out of reach. She leaned closer, straining to catch the words, but they faded into the background noise of the train. "Where are we going?" she finally called out, her voice trembling. The whispers ceased abruptly, and an eerie silence enveloped the train. The shadowy figures turned their heads in unison, their faces still obscured. But Sarah could feel their gaze piercing through the darkness. A sense of dread washed over her as she realized that they were not just passengers. They were something else entirely. "Where are we going?" she repeated, her voice louder this time, tinged with desperation. The figure closest to her leaned forward, and for a brief moment the dim light illuminated his face. It was gaunt and hollow, with sunken cheeks and eyes that seemed to reflect nothing but darkness. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice low and raspy. "This train doesn't take you home, it takes you to the end." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, her heart racing. "I just want to go home." The man's lips curled into a faint, unsettling smile. "Home is a memory now. This train is for those who have lost their way. You must decide, stay with us or leave." Panic surged through her. "Leave? How do I leave?" she demanded, her voice rising. The train began to slow, the rhythmic clattering of the wheels fading into a low hum. Outside the window, the landscape shifted from darkness to a faint glow, revealing a misty, ethereal realm that seemed to stretch endlessly. As the train came to a halt, the doors opened with a soft sigh, revealing a platform shrouded in fog. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and Sarah felt an inexplicable pull toward the exit. The shadowy figures remained seated, their expressions unreadable, as if they were waiting for her to make a choice. "Step off, and you may find what you seek," the gaunt man urged, his voice echoing in the stillness. "But be warned, once you step off this train, there is no turning back." Sarah's mind raced. She thought of her life, her friends, and the warmth of her home. But the allure of the unknown was strong, and the thought of staying on the train, trapped in this limbo, terrified her. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. "What happens if I stay?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You will become one of us," the gaunt man replied, his voice echoing with a chilling finality. "You will wander this train for eternity, lost in the shadows, forever searching for a way back to what you once knew." Sarah's heart sank at the thought. The idea of being trapped in this limbo, surrounded by the lost souls of others, was unbearable. She glanced back at the shadowy figures, their faces still obscured, but she could sense their longing, their despair. They were remnants of lives once lived, now bound to this train, and she didn't want to join them. With a surge of determination, Sarah stood up, her decision made. "I choose to leave," she declared, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. She stepped toward the open doors, the mist swirling around her like a living entity, beckoning her to step into the unknown. As she crossed the threshold, a wave of cold air enveloped her, and she felt a strange sensation, as if she were being pulled in multiple directions at once. The world outside was a blur of colors and shapes, a kaleidoscope of possibilities. She took a deep breath, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The moment her foot touched the platform, the train let out a mournful whistle, and the doors slammed shut behind her. The sound echoed in the mist, and she turned to see the train begin to move again, slowly disappearing into the fog. The shadowy figures inside pressed their faces against the glass, their expressions a mix of longing and despair. But Sarah felt a sense of liberation wash over her. The mist began to clear, revealing a vibrant landscape bathed in the soft light of dawn. The air was fresh and filled with the scent of blooming flowers. She took a step forward, feeling the warmth of the sun on her skin, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, she felt truly alive. As she walked further into this new world, she realized that she had a second chance. The memories of her past were still there, but now they were just that, memories. She could forge a new path, create new experiences, and find her way back to herself. With each step, she felt lighter, the weight of the shadows lifting. She looked back one last time at the train, now just a faint silhouette in the distance, swallowed by the mist. Sarah turned away, her heart filled with hope and determination. She was ready to embrace the journey ahead, whatever it might bring. As she ventured deeper into this vibrant world, she encountered a path lined with trees, their leaves shimmering in hues of gold and green. The sound of laughter echoed in the air, drawing her closer. She followed the sound, her curiosity piqued, and soon found herself in a clearing filled with people, joyful, vibrant souls who seemed to radiate warmth and light. "Welcome," a woman with bright, welcoming eyes exclaimed as she approached. "We've been waiting for you. This place is a sanctuary for those who seek to rediscover themselves." Sarah felt a rush of relief and belonging. "I thought I was lost," she admitted, her voice trembling with emotion. "You were," the woman replied gently, "but you made the choice to step into the light. Here you can heal, grow, and find your true self again." As the sun rose higher in the sky, casting a golden glow over the clearing, Sarah felt a sense of peace envelop her. She realized that the journey she had embarked on was not just about escaping the shadows of the train, but about embracing the light within herself. Days turned into weeks as Sarah immersed herself in this new community. She shared stories, laughter, and experiences with others who had also found their way to this sanctuary. Each day brought new lessons, new friendships, and a deeper understanding of herself. She learned to let go of the past, to forgive herself for the mistakes she had made, and to embrace the beauty of the present moment. The shadows that once haunted her began to fade, replaced by a vibrant tapestry of hope and possibility. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of colors, Sarah stood at the edge of the clearing, looking out at the horizon. She felt a sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought her here. The train, the choices, and the people who had guided her along the way. With a heart full of hope, she whispered to the universe, "I am ready for whatever comes next." And in that moment, she knew that she was no longer lost. She was home.